Have you ever noticed that being alone doesn't hurt nearly as much as being around people who don't really see you? Not loneliness, not isolation, just relief. For many people, solitude isn't something they retreat into because they're broken. It's something they return to because it's the only place their nervous system doesn't have to explain itself. Being misunderstood doesn't just feel disappointing. Psychologically, it feels unsafe. Because misunderstanding means your inner world has to stay alert, monitoring reactions, clarifying intent, correcting assumptions. And that kind of vigilance is exhausting. People who prefer being alone are often described as introverted, distant, or closed off. But that framing misses the deeper truth. This preference usually isn't about disliking people, it's about protecting coherence. When you're alone, you don't have to translate yourself. You don't have to shrink or sharpen your words. You don't have to manage the emotional impact of being misread. Your inner and outer worlds finally match. Psychologically, this pattern often forms in people who learned early that being fully understood was unreliable. Maybe you were listened to but not heard, responded to but not felt, seen but not accurately. Over time, the mind adapts. It learns that solitude is not emptiness, it's containment, a place where nothing has to be defended. There's also a nervous system component here that often goes unnamed. People who feel safer alone are frequently highly perceptive. They notice subtle shifts in tone, micro-expressions, unspoken tension. That sensitivity can be a strength. But in relationships where attunement is one-sided, it becomes labor. You're not just present, you're working. Alone, that work stops. The body exhales. And yet, beneath this preference, there is often a quiet grief. Not for people, but for ease. Invisible grief, the grief of realizing how rare it is felt to be met without distortion. The grief of understanding that you weren't too much or too quiet. You were simply responding to environments that couldn't hold you accurately. That kind of grief doesn't announce itself. It settles in the background and teaches the psyche a simple rule. Peace is safer than proximity. Carl Jung believed the psyche moves instinctively toward balance. When too much energy is spent managing misunderstanding, the soul seeks places where it doesn't have to perform clarity. Solitude becomes that counterweight. Not because connection isn't desired, but because authenticity without safety is too costly. So the mind chooses coherence over closeness. In adulthood, this often shows up quietly. You might notice that being alone restores you faster than socializing. You feel lonelier in groups than in solitude. Conversations feel draining even when they're pleasant. Silence feels more honest than explanation. These aren't signs of avoidance. They're signs of a system that learned to regulate itself through simplicity. And here's the part you're allowed to hear. You're allowed to stop treating this preference as something you need to overcome. You're allowed to stop forcing connection just to prove you're normal. And you're allowed to recognize that choosing solitude was never a flaw in your social wiring. It was a way of protecting clarity, dignity, and emotional truth. You don't need to fix this tonight. You don't need to push yourself into understanding. It's enough to know why being alone feels better than being misunderstood. Because when your experience is named accurately, it stops feeling isolating and starts feeling intentional. If this put words to something you've lived quietly, comment, yes. Not because you need more people, but because you finally understood why peace mattered so much.